Greetings and welcome to another edition of the Pedalshift Project. The Pedalshift Project is a series of conversations, thoughts, and experiments around the bike touring lifestyle. From tips and tricks to ideas on how to ride your ride, let's shrink the world by bike. Show notes and more are available at pedalshift.net/195, and you can email the show, pedalshift@pedalshift.net, or call the voicemail hotline, 202-930-1109, and check Pedalshift out on all the socials as well. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 195th edition of the Pedalshift Project and part 2 of Tour Journal's The Kessel Run of Central Florida. A reminder, if you are brand new to the show and you haven't checked it out yet, go check out last week's episodes. It's part 1 of the Kessel Run, Pedalshift Project number 194. Also, do not forget to join me live Friday, February 21st. If you're getting this podcast right now, it means tomorrow. February 21st, Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, Pedalshift Live. Go to pedalshift.net/live for more details. This is going to be the wrap-up show for the Kessel Run. All of my lessons learned, all of my thoughts about things going forward with Florida bike tours, and a lot more. Plus, it's going to be the announcement of my upcoming spring tour just coming in a month and how that's going to impact Pedalshift episode number 200. The live show will be next week's episode, Pedalshift number 196, if you cannot make it. But in the immortal words of Wooderson, it'd be a lot cooler if you did. That was my attempt at Wooderson from... Yeah, anyways. So, day 2, part 2 of the Kessel Run. Day 2 of the trip began with sunshine, a big change from day 1, and exotic birds as I rolled through strawberry country and transitioned from wide open spaces to industrial places, and then to, well, I got to Tampa a little bit early, and I got to explore a little bit of the beer scene there, which was great. But would I be able to roll right up to Tampa Airport, or would I be forced to sheepishly hire a ride for that final quarter mile? Let's check it out. Good morning from day 2 of the Kessel Run, day 2 of 2, and I'm about ready to leave my Airbnb here nearby. I guess it's Plant City technically, but it's pretty close to Lakeland too. It's sort of on the edges of both. It's in neither. It was really a perfect spot in a way because it's away from all the traffic, and it was a really beautiful space. Converted home that now has multiple apartments in it. Just really interesting because it's a beautiful home, but there have been modifications here, so it's done by design to be an Airbnb, and the owner still lives in another part of it, but it's completely separate entrance, sealed off, and everything. So it worked out very well for me. I ended up staying up later than I intended last night, and I don't know why. Well, I guess I do. I was still off on my Star Wars buzz, so I was able to log into my Disney Plus account and watch some additional Star Wars content, and ended up being up till midnight, even though I was tired. It was very strange. I ended up getting a pizza delivered rather than venturing out to get food for dinner, and did not want to go out, and even though I had lights, I didn't feel like biking out to go get food. And I also I may have mentioned this in the preview episode, the options within a reasonable biking distance from here were rather limited, and in terms of the quality of food and the non-chain local elements that I like to try to do, they just weren't really super available for me to personally go to. So when you're at that point and you're kind of like, okay, well, let me get delivery. There was a local pizza place named Hungry Howie's, and I don't know if it's the same Hungry Howie's that was in the Detroit, Michigan area when I was a kid. I would imagine it is, or at least the offspring of it. But I was able to get a Hungry Howie's pizza delivered, which was fantastic, and I ate the entire thing. It was funny because as I was sitting there doing it, I was almost like, well, I guess I could just finish the last bit of peanut butter crackers I have, and a little bit of the. I had caramel popcorn. There's my nod to having sugar when I ride, and one of the few things that I actually would say that I wouldn't say I miss, but like I'm like. I'd always be like, yeah, that's something I would be into. But in any event, I was all set. Okay, well, I guess that'll be enough calories so I don't, go stark raving mad tonight. And then I'll just get breakfast tomorrow on the way out. And then I was able to make the pizza thing work. And I was like, well, all right, great. And I'm glad I did, because I think I would have been really hungry otherwise last night. Plus, it would have been like, not substantial calories, like, peanut butter crackers plus caramel popcorn would not have filled me up very well. And I think it would have been almost worse to have eaten that and not had anything else. So in any event, that worked out good, but I was up late, woke up with the sun. And it's interesting as the sun is getting up earlier and earlier again, or rising earlier and earlier again. I'm finding that I get up earlier now, which is interesting because I think I would say it was around August, September when I started to get up early more often. And I kind of turned more in. I wouldn't say I'll ever be a morning person, but I do think that I think bike touring has been a big piece of it, that I tend to like to be up and at 'em, and if I'm doing something, I like to get up and go. If I'm not doing something, I revert to my normal night owl mode. Now, the unfortunate thing is when I'm a night owl and then an early morning person at the same time, it tends not to work out so well for me, but it's all right. Today is fine. I'm actually, I think I'd mentioned I track my sleep in. I'm still in a sleep credit mode, just barely, but I think I'll need to catch up a little bit more this week if possible. But I do have to say I slept great. I feel really good and energized this morning. And waking up with the sun rather than with an alarm, I feel like it helps me out a lot more to be able to do that. Just, I don't know, it just feels better. It feels more natural. It's not as jarring, etc. So I am all packed up. I luckily found the one thing that I didn't see a coffee maker here. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm at the only Airbnb in the world with no coffee maker. And then I thought, wait a second. Everything's very put away around here. Let me look below, and below in the cabinets, there was a coffee maker and coffee and everything. So I'm enjoying my first cup of coffee this morning, and it feels great to have a little caffeine in me before I get rolling. So I'm all packed up. Feels like a tighter pack job this time, which is good. And it's a little on the cool side to start this morning. So I think I'm going to have an additional layer. I contemplated not wearing my rain jacket, but my rain jacket has a great pocket for my iPhone that I found to be really handy. The other thing, I should mention, I mentioned it in the preview episode that I was going to ride with an iPhone holster, and I forgot that the holster and the water bottle holder you can't do both. And I definitely have gone with the water bottle holder, which has a couple of mesh pockets where the phone could conceivably fit in, but it doesn't feel real safe. It's not secure in there. So yesterday with the rain jacket, I had it in my, it's like a breast pocket, and very easy to access. And I thought that worked out really well. So today, I think even though it's not going to be raining, it's quite sunny out. I think I'm going to at least start with that with a merino wool layer underneath. It might be overkill and I may get warm fast. So then I'll have to make a decision whether I want to ditch which layer to ditch. I have a funny feeling I'm going to be ditching the merino wool layer, and then maybe put that on later on in the day. Should be cooler today than yesterday, but with the sun, you know how that goes. It may feel warmer to me. I have about 33 or 34 miles to get from this point to the airport spot that I'm intending to head for. That said, I have way, way, way more time than is necessary to get there. So I think I'm going to take a little more casual ride stance today. I think I'm going to definitely stop and grab a bit of breakfast. And then I think I'm going to shoot for some kind of a place where I can sit down for a couple of hours and enjoy either some lunch or a beer or both, or kind of split it up. I'm already forgetting the name of it. I think it's called Cigar. Is it Cigar Brewery? Cigar something brewery. I can't remember the name of it, but they make a really good IPA that I like quite a bit, the Highlight IPA, and it's starting to get distributed in DC even. And I think that I wouldn't mind visiting their facility and going there. So I think I may head towards there. The interesting thing is that it's literally minutes away from the airport. So I think what I might do is, and oh, by the way, it doesn't look like that they have food there. So what I might do is do some kind of roundabout way to get there and deviate from my route. Grab a lunch someplace, relax, maybe get down into the downtown area, go down by the water, which would be a major deviation from my set route, but then come back up to it and do that as kind of my last thing before I head to the airport. Flight leaves around 5. I'd like to get to the airport probably by, I know it's going to sound like overkill, but probably to the car rental place by about 3:30, give or take, just so that it gives me time to unpack everything, repack into the airport mode, hop on the shuttle bus, go and be there by 4 o'clock so I can check the bag and all that other kind of stuff. I am not a nervous traveler, but I would rather sit for a half hour in an airport checked in and be in a good mental place rather than, especially in bike touring, rather than being frazzled and harried and like, coming in at the last second. In addition, because it's Southwest Airlines, as I mentioned before, flying with them means that, if you get there on time and get your assigned boarding spot like I do, it means that I have a 100% chance of getting a spot for the bike up above where I'm sitting. And that to me is the number one priority when it comes to returning home. I am looking forward to today's riding. I don't know how it's going to go. It's a very different route compared to last time, except for this early stage. I'll be going through by these a strawberry processing plant, if memory serves, and a whole bunch of other interesting things. And I think that, like I mentioned yesterday, the most intriguing element of this ride is just the variability of the surfaces, the enjoyment, the amount of things to look at. I mean, there's parts of this ride today where it's just like industrial area and you're just kind of like head down. All right, let me get these miles in and go to the next interesting thing to look at. But I kind of enjoy that variability. It makes for a more interesting ride. So many of my rides and tours are in places, while naturally beautiful, it's kind of the same look the whole way. I'm reminded of the folks who ride the Trans Am in particular and talk about stretches of the ride where it's the same thing for days on end. Southern Tier through Texas is another thing that is spoken of, that there are days where it's you start and you end the day and you've seen the same thing all day, and then the next day it's the same thing. This ride is very much the opposite of that, and I kind of enjoy that element. The other thing that I think is good about it is because I'm on so many roads that are not prime bicycle touring roads, I think I'm paying attention more, I'm more engaged, and I like that too. It's so easy to get into bike touring head, and while you're paying attention for safety purposes, you're maybe not as engaged. And I feel like I'm a more defensive rider in this scenario, and it I don't know, it's just more energizing in that sense. So I think that helps. It's funny, I think this is not the type of tour that I would recommend for everyone, but for me, it's a nice change of pace. It's also a great breakaway from winter. And I like the fact that this is all a contained but fun and motivating ride to be able to do. And I'm really looking forward to starting the planning for 2021's ride, because I do think I'm going to come back down here again. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be doing Central Florida quite the same way, but I do think that riding some of the trails that I rode yesterday, in addition to the Van Fleet Trail, which I had done last year, it does make me think a little bit more about let's look at all of the different trails and what can I do to link them together and do a really cool, mostly trail ride, because the trails are paved and beautiful and fantastic. So that might be something to take a look at for next year. So more to come on that, of course. But before 2021 happens, I must finish the Kessel Run. I am about to affix my lightsaber to the back of the rack. Oh, by the way, it's been funny looking at social and people going, what's that? Is that a pool noodle on the back of your bike? And I'm like, no, it's a lightsaber. By the way, also, if anybody was worried about whether or not the lightsaber was in good condition, had made day one, yes, I did take it out and I did test it out, and it is functioning perfectly well. So it's doing just fine. It's going to be very interesting, and I will talk about this, I'm sure, later on in the day, what my strategy is for getting this thing on the plane. I have a few ideas, but what a fun and enjoyable and weird element to this bike tour. Getting something back that has no business being on a bike. It is just the wrong size and the wrong shape for anything having to do with bike touring. But yet here I am, and I think it's working out just fine. And I think it's going to be getting back home in one good piece. So yay for that. All right. Look, I'm going to finish my coffee. And I'm going to get out of this echoey room so you don't have to be subjected to the echoiness of any future recordings. And next time you'll hear from me, we'll be out on the road somewhere between here and Tampa for day 2 of the Kessel Run. From Plant City, Florida, it is, I don't know what time, 10 o'clock a.m. So I've made some nice time here. I talked about at the beginning of the morning the varied surfaces. So it's been kind of that way for a while now. I did a rural road where I saw some interesting storks. Go check out the Instagram feed for that. With barbed wire fencing. Then immediately was on the I-4 frontage road for a little while. Then dodging in and out of suburban style roads along the way with varied types of housing. What an interesting style choices lots of people make for down here with these beautiful kind of magnolia trees, and then houses that would fit more in the Midwest. So they're probably transplants, I'm guessing. And then here I am in beautiful downtown Plant City, and ended up going through the historic district where it was a brick road. And like I said, varied surfaces. Now I'm on a sidewalk right now, right below a mileage sign for Tampa, 23 miles. And I asked on Instagram how many parsecs is that, because of the Star Wars theme. I swore I wasn't going to do too much Star Wars on this. Everything's going great. Beautiful sunny day, nice and cool. I just stripped off my wool layer because I was starting to get a little too warm. And it fits, I have to say, my setup here with the extra pannier, the kind of, I guess it would be nylon pannier that sort of pinches and goes around the stem of the bike, is really great. I unzip the pocket, and there's basically what it creates is two kind of awkward pockets on it, but one's got an extra water bottle and one now is holding my wool layer. So I've got easy access to that. Didn't have to open up the front pannier for that. So that all works out really well. And of course, lightsaber, it's doing just fine, being my long tail. All right, let's keep going. I'm now on the hunt for some breakfast. Not hungry, but I know I'll need those calories, so off we go. All right, just outside of Plant City, and I found a Taco Bell. I was not going to be picky. I think that I'm starting on a stretch where basically I'm going about 10 miles down U.S. Highway 92, which is a major thoroughfare here in Central Florida, and I wasn't 100% positive there was going to be a ton of options. I may be surprised down the road here, but we'll see. Went in and got the first of a lot of bike tourists get, which is, wait, you rode your bike here? And I don't think that they were expecting, I think they were expecting like it was like around the corner or something like that. I'm like, yeah, I started near Orlando yesterday and I'm going to Tampa today. And just always is fun to like see the wide-eyed amazement at that. Like I said, about 20 miles to go, and I'm going to take a casual. I now am fueled up and have plenty of food in me. And, oh, by the way, I mentioned headwinds before. Definitely going this direction, going from west to east, at least so far in my experience, it's a pretty consistent headwind. It's not terrible, but it's noticeable, and I'm sure it's hurting performance. I think it's one of those classic types of things where if it were a tailwind, it wouldn't do much for me, but since it's a headwind, it's limiting me a little bit, but not in an annoying way. But it's been a very joyful ride so far. I will say I looked up recently, or just now before I started recording, and there were vultures circling overhead. Take that as you will, but I'm about to get back on the road. Nice bike lane here, by the way. And I've really been intrigued with how Ride with GPS paired with Google Maps can shift the infrastructure for me on this ride. You know, yeah, there's some roads that I don't care to be biking on, but almost always there's a sidewalk as an option on some of those roads. And so, you know, I'll just move right on over. But it's been a Sunday morning, and it's been very chill so far. I expect that to change. But, yeah, good riding so far, and the bike is kicking ass. All right, off I go. So judging by the highway noise, you can probably presume, rightfully so, that I am right on the outskirts of Tampa metro area. I'm going under a large highway which might be I-75. I cannot tell from my vantage point. That's the big north-south one that goes all the way up to Michigan and I think down the west side of this state, the Gulf side of the state. So that means I'm real close. I'm probably maybe 10 miles or less from the airport. Again, I'm going to start to deviate as I get closer to town, make a decision on where I want to end up going. Riding's been great. I'll have to say the approach into town was different. I did not take Broadway the full length. I took US 92, and I would recommend that, man. Real nice shoulder / bike lane the whole way for the miles that I was on it. You can check out the route in the show notes. But I've had a really nice uneventful ride. Drivers have been, to the extent that they've needed to pause for me or give me extra width, it's been great. Yeah, no complaints at all with folks who I'm sharing the roads with, so that's been fantastic. Headwinds were very noticeable in times. They were gusting up, but nothing too terrible, nothing awful. I found I've downshifted a little bit more. One thing that I should mention is, of course, I mentioned this before about my Brompton setup. I've added a speed hub to this, which doubles my gears. Normally a 6-speed Brompton is, well, you figured it out, has 6 gears to it. I added speed hub, which basically doubles things. And typically when I tour, I end up in my lower set of those 6 gears. On this ride, I've been completely in the higher set, which I think has been a function of A, me riding more, and B, the terrain being pretty flat. Even when there have been some hills of note, I've never gone lower than the lowest gear in the upper end of gearing. Now, I'm sure there's some overlap in there. I'd be curious, actually, one of these days I should figure out what if any, gear overlap there is for this bike. In any event, I'm going to be rolling in. I think maybe next time you hear from me, might be over a beer. Maybe. Guess we'll see. Onward. A noisy, perhaps, end here at Cigar City Brewing. I think we'll do a little bit more to wrap this all up. This is my last stop in Tampa. A brewery that makes an excellent IPA, and I'm trying it all out. And I'm super happy to be here. I've got the Short Commute, which is kind of like a session IPA, a Ghost, which I'm excited about, High Ally, which I love, and then the Hunapa, probably mispronouncing that, which is an imperial stout with cinnamon, vanilla, cacao, ancho, pasilla, guajillo chili, peppers, and more. Wow, that's a big beer. I'll wrap that all up. What a great ride. What a great ride to get here. And I'm real close to the airport. So.
Apologies for the lower quality audio. Yeah, I think these may be coming through my AirPods Pro, which I have a comment about later, but holy moly, that wind's gotten worse. Like, progressively worse the closer I've gotten to Tampa Bay and the airport here. I see the airport here over my right shoulder as I'm getting closer. I am very much on the sidewalk as the road turns to full-on freeway. Yeah, crazy. Someday this is supposed to be the best approach to the airport, and I'm sure it will be. Right now, man, holy moly. It went from quiet city street to busy city street with a bike lane to full-on highway in like 100 meters. It was amazing. All right, here we go. Keep on going.
From the passenger drop-off pickup area at Tampa International Airport, Level 1. This is the end of the Kessel Run. I am here to say a major surprise here. I guess I could have looked this up, but apparently this is the destination for the train that takes one to the terminal. So I'm going to declare this victory right now. Also, big ups to Tampa Airport for the minimal amount of effort given to the current situation. You can bike here under the current setup. There is bike parking out here, and clearly people, employees, I think, it looks like bike up here, and there's a a nod to a wavy bike staple there. It's also the place where it looks like the Tampa municipal bus system drops off, and this all worked out. This all worked out very, very well. So I'm just basically here at a big, wide, puffy bench or plush bench or, comfortable seating for folks that are waiting for buses, presumably, or for passenger pickup. Just getting basically into stealth mode and getting ready to be able to roll. I think the best way to do this is to go full stealth mode and get everything into the duffel and go from there. I'm also draining all of my water bottles and making sure that I'm ready to go. I think I'm going to pack my shoulder bag in my checked luggage, and I'm going to do the Lightsaber as the kind of quote-unquote personal item for this flight. Hopefully that will fly, no pun intended. But the blade is just too fragile to trust, I think, to check. The hilt is going to go in the bag. Interestingly, that's got a battery in it. I hope that's not a problem. Well, I guess we'll just have to see. I'm sure that they're not going to scan for that. So I'll bring my, it can't be that big of a battery, so I'll bring my recharging battery for my phone with me on the plane because those technically can't be checked. And yeah, we'll go from there. Maybe I should bring the damn hilt. Can you tell I'm protective of this thing? Yeah, so what a great trip. What a great a ride. 2 days. Yes, this wasn't the longest tour I've ever done. This is basically a modified S240 in some ways, but I really, really enjoyed this ride. I really enjoy Central Florida. What a great array of surfaces to go on. This is not a beginner level tour by any stretch of the imagination. You got to be comfortable riding on mixed streets, mixed trails, stuff like that, at least for the route that I've chosen. And, but I will say those trails are pretty amazing, and I know that they're ubiquitous throughout the state. So it's definitely a nod towards thinking about what can I do to link a lot of those trails together, because that's what I did last year for the big tour last spring. So maybe next winter I'll think about doing something more like that. But in the interim, big shouts to the Brompton. Really, really great. What a great performer yet again. Really enjoyed that. AirPods Pro. Can I give a quick shout to them? I mentioned that you heard the relatively poor quality. Unfortunately, they're not a great microphone for purposes of podcasting. But I'll tell you what, when you go in transparency mode with them, they are excellent. For those of you who have been dogging me for wearing earbuds during tours or during biking, I'll tell you what, I hear better with those in transparency mode. I hear the traffic all around me, and I hear approaching traffic really, really well, better than my normal hearing. So I'm a big fan of those as potential for bike touring tools, shall we say. And I'll have more to talk about that later, probably in the wrap-up episode. But very interesting experiment in this environment for the AirPods Pro as a potential bike touring enhancement, not just Tim's a jerk who likes to wear earbuds when he rides. All right, everyone. That is the close of this wonderful, wonderful, amazing tour. I really enjoyed it. If it wasn't really obvious, I think it's Central Florida is a great place to bike. It's challenging. It's different. It is not your typical kind of bike tour, but I've really enjoyed it for the second year in a row, and I'm looking forward to a return down the line. Stud
Statistics. Day 2, miles biked 33.6 miles. Unidentifiable bird species. Lots. Rain. No. Lightsabers fastened to rear racks. Still 1. Sweet paved trail miles, 0. Flats, 0. Bars visited, 2. Beers imbibed, 1 pint, 1 flight. 2021 Florida trips planned in my head, 1. And as always, we'd like to close out the show with a special shout out to the Pedalshift Society. Because of support from listeners like you, Pedalshift is a weekly bicycle touring podcast with a global community, expanding into live shows and covering new tours. If you like what you hear, you can support the show for $5, $2, or even $1 a month. And there's one-shot and annual options if you're not into the small monthly thing. Check it all out at pedalshift.net/society. On to the society. Kimberly Wilson, Caleb Jenkinson, Cameron Lean, Andrew McGregor, Michael Hart, Keith Nagel, Brock Dittus, Thomas Skadow, Marco Lowe, Terrence Manson, Harry Telgadis, Chris Barron, Mark Van Ram, Brad Hipwell, Stuart Bucket, Mr. T, Roxy Arning, Nathan Poulton, Stephen Dickerson, Vince LaGreco, Paul Culbertson, Scott Culbertson, Cody Florchinger, Tom Beninati, Greg Braithwaite, Sandy Pizzio, Jeff Muster, Seth Pollock, Joseph Quinn, Drew Porter, Byron Patterson, Joachim Robert, Ray Jackson, Jeff Fry, Kenny Mikey, Lisa Hart, John Denkler, Steve Hankel, Miguel Quinones, Alejandro Aviles Reyes, Keith Spangler, Greg Towner, Dan Gebhardt, Jody Zeranin, Lucas Barwick, Michael Baker, Brian Bechtold, Reinhard Biggle, Greg Middlemas, Connie Moore, William Goffman, Brian Benton, Joan Churchill, Mike Bender, Rick Weinberg, Billy Crafton, Gary Matushak, Greg Latois Lopez, James Sloan, Jonathan Dillard, John Funk, Tom Bilch, Ronald Paroli, Dave Roll, Brian Hafner, Misha LeBlanc, Ari Messenger, David Grotke, Todd Grosbeck, Wally Estrella, Sue Reinhardt, John Lecco, Stephen Granada, Philip Muller, Kevin Olhausen, and Robert Lackey. And thanks also to all past and anonymous contributors for helping make the show happen. Thank you for joining. You can find Pedalshift at pedalshift.net for more great bicycle touring content. You can hear the Pedalshift project through Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. Opening music courtesy of Jason Kent off his self-titled album. The track is called America. Check out his band Sunfield's latest release, Mono Mono, wherever cool music is available.